Welcome back to Generic Expats. Today we introduce a new segment to the channel, which is Meet the Expat Community. We are now in a new city and country, Antigua, Guatemala. And lo and behold, are you ready? Let's go. I am blessed to be joined by a new acquaintance, new friend-to-be here in the city of Antigua in Guatemala. Could you please introduce yourself, what your name is, and where you are from?
Hi, I'm Alexander Farrar. I'm from the Bahamas, but I also lived for a long time in South Florida and Ireland.
Oh, excellent. So you have quite a bit of experience traveling around and not just living in one country.
A bit, yes. I'm an author. Primarily, first I was an author and I wanted to write adventure books, but I didn't have any experience to write from, so I decided I would go off on adventures.
Oh,
and so I kicked around a bit, got into trouble in all kinds of exotic places, and ended up here.
Oh, wow. So this motivation you had to be an author basically made you go out into the world and go do those adventures yourself, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Well, let's start from the beginning. How old are you and how long have you been living here in Antigua, Guatemala?
I'm just shy of 46. I'll be 46 in a couple months, and I've been here for 15 years.
Okay, so you moved here around age 31 then, huh?
Yes, I came here for 3 months to research my 8th novel, and I was only supposed to be here 3 months, but I met a girl and
That's the typical story, isn't it?
It is. It is. When I was here, when I first arrived, my first 2 weeks, I was walking around and I had a whole bunch of people come up to me and say, "Hey, new face, how long are you going to be here?" I go, "Oh, 3 months." I said, "Yeah, that's what I said 30 years ago." And so it's been 15 for me.
So you're halfway to that person's point now.
Halfway, yeah.
Okay, so you came here and within the 3 months you met the girl that basically was the reason you stayed for?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I did my investigation, which led me to get into other adventures, because you can't just go poking around in these kinds of subjects and asking questions and not attract unpleasant attention. And so that resulted in an adventure that became my 11th book. And so managed to survive that. Came out on top by the grace of God. Where's some wood I can knock? And
so let's talk about your novels. You said you've already produced 11 novels. You've written 11?
That was my 11th. My 22nd just came out in last September. Wow. And I'm writing my 23rd right now when I have a spare minute, which is at the moment almost never.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, yeah.
¿Puede mandarme algo para tomar? This is one of my favorite waiters.
Juan. Thank you, Juan. Excelente. Well, gracias. Salud.
Salud.
You seem to have quite an interesting story, so we should continue with that. What are most of your novels about? What is the main topic for most of them? Are they similar, or do you kind of write about different topics every time?
They range. I don't try to write one specific genre. I write the story that comes to mind. And just like my painting, I'm a painter also. And these days I'm more of a neoclassical painter, trying to become a pre-Raphaelite, but damn, it's hard, which is the point. And so I don't try to fit into a specific genre. I either paint or write what I feel needs to be painted or written.
Okay. So you go kind of based off instinct and gut feeling, and you kind of pour your emotion into the piece you're doing from how you're feeling.
Or the zeitgeist is calling for a certain story to be told. And like the last one that just came out is about 3 days, January 4th, 5th, and 6th of 2021. And it takes place a third here in Antigua, a third in Vienna, and a third in Washington, D.C. Wow. And it is about COVID and the January 6th insurrection. And it's very, very popular already. I mean, it came out in September and it's May now, and it's already doing very well.
Wow, excellent. Well, congratulations for you. That's wonderful news. It seems like you're really busy. You're always motivated to continue producing content, and that's excellent too. I'm trying to produce some content myself, and I'm glad I stumbled into a person with some great stories. So let's go back to after you met the person that was the reason for you staying. What did you first do to establish yourself here in the city?
I had wanted to find art galleries that would show my work, and I found a few, but my wife, then my girlfriend, had some better ideas. She decided that we ought to start having these extravaganza art shows in different venues around town, like restaurants or bars that had just opened and were dying for free publicity. And we would approach them and say, hey, listen, let's have an art show. We'll get a whole bunch of painters to exhibit their work in your place for 1 month, and I'll go around passing flyers. That'll get people through your door. It's up to you to make them stay. And on opening night, we would have friends of hers do belly dancing shows, which were amazing, live music, poetry recitals. I mean, it was fantastic.
Wow. So full out, like, artistic publicity move that brought all the business into these restaurants.
Right. Okay. But then some of the proprietors would complaining like, hey, all these people are coming into my place, but they're not spending any money. And I'm telling them, well, I got them through your door. Why don't you try this? Why don't you say, I try to offer them my menu, and they say, we're not hungry. I said, so offer them something that will give them a little taste and remind them that they are hungry. You say, while you're here, would you like to try this? And my girlfriend's kicking me under the table, like, shut up. And then later on, I go, baby, what was all that about? And I'm like, stop telling people how to do their work, how to do their job. Instead, open your own place and do exactly what you're saying. Oh my God, that's a great idea. So she talked me into opening an art gallery restaurant where I could show my own work and have other artists exhibit theirs. And like, this is something that's done in several restaurants around the world. Sure. And the restaurant will take a commission. Traditionally, it's a 50% commission, but I remember what it was like when a gallery would sell one of my paintings, and I'd be all happy until I got a check for half the amount. And I knew it was going to happen, but it's a kick in the belly when you feel that. Yeah, so I decided, all right, we're only going to charge 30%, and that way everybody wins.
Charge on top of it.
Yeah, and nobody feels so bad about it.
Sure.
And we've sold an awful lot of paintings. We turned some people into stars by the grace of God.
So this restaurant you have now, this restaurant has that same style of having artists work on the walls that you sell for on their behalf, and then you add the extra commission for the restaurant, and you have these beautiful paintings everywhere. Those are from the artists that you met. People, are they mostly people from Antigua, or where?
Mostly
where are they
from Antigua, yes. I've got maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paintings of my own here. The rest of them I sold by the grace of God, and a lot of the others are by people that I've been selling their work for many years.
Yeah. And
I'm very, very happy that I get to help them continue making a living doing what they love.
Excellent. You started that restaurant right after you decided that you wanted to stay here, you wanted to stay with your girlfriend and dedicate this art business mixed with the restaurant business. Did you have any experience in the restaurant and culinary business and gastronomy, that type of thing?
Yes, I've worked in restaurants the majority of my life, and I've always loved it. I've loved the chaos of it and the intense stress. I think Anthony Bourdain described it as being on the front lines, because it calls up an image of being in a war, but in a positive way. Yeah. And yeah, it's a bit of a struggle. It feels like maybe you're on a submarine and you're working very, very hard to make sure that everything goes just right, and you're terrified. And at the end of the night, Like when I'd be walking home, I would have this intense feeling of elation, like I did it. I did it. I got those people fed and everything went off without a hitch. There was plenty of stress, but I did it.
Every night is definitely a struggle in the food and beverage industry, isn't it?
It is, definitely. But, you know, I absolutely love this job, and I get to meet some of the best people in the world. We get people that come here from all over the world, and sometimes, all right, so we've got these groups that come down on mission trips. Some of them faith-based, some of them not, some of them secular. But they'll come down once or twice a year, and they'll perform up to 3,000 surgeries in a week on poor people. They'll build houses for poor people. They'll install running water in entire villages. Or one of these groups came down and taught poor people how to build their own stoves.
Wow.
Because there's something that poor people will do is dig a hole in the middle of their hut and cook there and die of black lung because they're inhaling all of this smoke.
Sure.
So they've taught them how to construct these self-sustaining stoves, and so these people come back every year and they eat their meals in sobremesa. And I get to catch up with them. Hey, how have you been? It's good to see you. Oh, wow, you got married? That's amazing. And they're just such wonderful people, and it's always great to see them. And it's also great to serve 26, 28 people at a time, and especially people that already like the food, and so a little bit of the pressure is off.
Is that the maximum capacity here at your restaurant, about 28 people?
No, it's about 60 something.
60.
I forget what it is because we have a rooftop terrace now, but also we added a bar downstairs, and so we took away 3 tables, we added 8 more. I would have to actually sit and think.
Is this rooftop terrace, this is a new addition to your restaurant then?
Yes. Yes, I've wanted it for... All right, no, I won't go down that rabbit hole.
Let's do a little summary of basically, based on this story and based upon the community that I actually communicated with on Facebook and how I found your interest, is that it seems like the community that lives here is quite engaged in helping the local people. Is that a pretty fair thing to say?
Yes, absolutely. People come down here usually for 3 months at a time to learn Spanish or something like that and live with a host family. To get the whole immersive experience and eat 3 meals a day with that family. And they fall in love with the culture and the city. Something I really love about these people, like buildings don't make a city, people make a city, right? And you walk down the streets here and smile and say hello to a complete stranger, and they smile and say hello back. Like sometimes they'll be looking at you with this kind of angry look, and you say, hello, good afternoon, and their face brightens up, and they go, hi, how are you? And the reason that they were glaring at you is because, I found out later, that they're thinking, this jerk isn't going to say hello to me, just like those other 12 people I passed by. He's just another freaking foreigner that, oh no, he's actually acknowledging I exist. Hi, how are you? Very, very polite people. Like, have you ever made elevator friends in another country?
Yes.
Really?
In Brazil, I met a German guy.
Right. Okay.
So it was just going up into some like tourist spot, and this is actually a friend of mine that I still talk to today, a really close friend of mine that lives in England but from Germany, and he travels in Brazil a lot. I lived in Brazil for 3 years, so we have that Brazil like fondness, and stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, maybe it's not super common though.
Okay. Like when I moved from the Bahamas to Florida, I would say I'd be walking my dog or something or riding my bike down the bike trail and see somebody and like, good afternoon. And they just look at me like, freak. Who the hell are you saying hello to me? And so I thought, wow, that's what a lot of people are like.
I think that's pretty similar actually in my region of the U.S. Midwest is like, they're kind of, they're like their own personal bubble. And if you cross that personal bubble without knowing someone, some people can take it as like a, like, what are you trying to do to me?
Yeah.
Instead of like, hey, are you trying to like acknowledge my existence, say hello, be friendly? They kind of take it in the opposite extreme sometimes. I think, maybe it's not always, but that's kind of, I think I share that idea with certain places I've lived in also.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people are like, what's your angle? What are you trying to get out of me?
Right. What is he trying to get from you, right? What is he trying to do? He's just trying to get your money, or what is he trying to do?
No,
right?
I'm just saying good afternoon.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about something real quick. There was this one guy. He was about 5 foot tall, very dark-skinned guy, wearing a white 10-gallon hat, big cowboy hat, and he had a big old bushy white walrus mustache. And every time I saw him, I mean, like, buenas tardes, buenas tardes. And we'd see each other a couple days later. Buenos dias, buenos dias. And like for 2 years, we would say hello to each other. We just saw each other all around town. And one day he came into the restaurant while I was sitting there and doing the numbers. And he comes up to me and says, "I've been saying hello to you for 2 years now, and I don't even know your name." I said, "Hi, I'm Alex." And I shook his hand and he said, "I'm Osvaldo." "Nice to meet you, Don Osvaldo." And then afterwards, I'm driving down the street. I see him on the sidewalk. I wave to him, "Don Osvaldo." He's like, "Don Alex, ¿cómo estás?" And we see each other in other parts of town or in other towns, like, "Don Osvaldo." We have no idea. We don't know anything about each other, but both of us, at the drop of a hat, would be each other's character witness at the trial.
You got each other's back no matter what.
Absolutely. And like, "Your Honor, I know this man. He is a good man. He did not do that. And if he did, he was completely justified."
He has the best smile and wave, and he says buenos dias the best out of anyone around.
He does, actually.
Okay, well, let's kind of switch up ideas of what we were talking about before. We mentioned how you got into the restaurant business, which was something that is quite an interesting story. I also am curious about the quality of life that exists here in Antigua. Antigua, from what I've seen, has a lot of variety of like restaurants and kind of upper scale and like luxury type of restaurants, kind of similar to yours, that kind of cater to a certain audience. And I guess maybe my question is, what do you think it takes to live a pretty good quality of life here per month in Antigua?
I'm not sure exactly how much money it would take, but you can live like a king here on very little.
Let's give some numbers. So like, would you say like maybe a 1,000 or 2,000 is enough to live quite well here, or is that kind of on the lower side of not going out much and not having a nice place to live and not spending a lot on, extra activities?
I think $2,000 a month and you'll have a great time. Now, prices have gone up quite a bit since then, because when I came over here 15 years ago, I found out that this city has changed a lot since 20 years ago. And, there were luxury places before, but the standard has risen since, and there are more places popping up. And also inflation. See, there are some people that came down here from Canada, and just like every real estate bubble in the world, foreigners come in. Foreigners like myself, but that's fine. Foreigners. The other foreigners.
The bad ones.
Yeah, they come in and they say, "Oh wow, this place is a really great opportunity for me." And there are so many foreigners like myself that come here that can afford a better life. So I'm going to get involved in real estate and start jacking prices up. And I'm going to make my fortune at the expense of the people who live here. And they start this, they create this real estate bubble. Say, "Hi, how you doing? Listen, I'm going to rent your place out for you, your mansion that's been in your family for 500 years. I'm going to rent off localis, but I'm going to charge an exorbitant price to get you a lot more money." "Oh, wow, I'd love a lot more money for just sitting back and doing nothing." Sure, that's great. But of course, because the rent is high, well, the prices of the product have to be high. It get passed on to the consumer. And it's dominoes. This chain reaction that affects the entire city until Antigua is one of the most expensive cities in the world to live. And it gets higher because every year, almost every year, the minimum wage goes up. And so all the prices have to go up. And it's annoying, but still, it's a really great place to live. And I've lived in four different countries so far and visited many others. And this is the safest I've ever felt.
Okay. I've actually had some people ask me about how is the safety in Antigua. Some people have told me that, for example, some tourists that hike that volcano right there, right? This is the Volcán de Agua.
Yeah.
That some tourists were going up and they were assaulted. They were someone that had some guns, some weapons, and stole their phones. And they didn't do any hurt or do anything terrible or whatever. But yeah, there have been some incidences, and this was recently, I think, just like 6 months ago. But besides that, you think it's quite a super safe place to be then?
There are bandits that live on that volcano.
Yeah, okay.
There were, and I don't know if they got out of prison yet, there were some bandits that lived in the forest leading up to Sierra de la Cruz, right up there.
Oh, yeah.
There's that cross up there on the mountain.
Right.
They've got police there during the day, and at night you're advised not to go up there because there are bandits that live around the place. And I could tell you some stories.
Of course.
But not on... Not on the air.
In general, though, this place is quite a peaceful, safe place. That, in your perspective, you've had no issues in the past 15 years you've been here.
I had issues at the very beginning,
Just
like in every city in the world. There are places you don't go, and I used to be armed. And I have had to demonstrate my proficiency with these arms on a few occasions because, I'd put all my money into having a restaurant. I didn't have money for a car. So I would have to walk at the end of the night. And I'm working from 8 in the morning to midnight every night and walking home at night. And who's in the street after midnight on a sleepy town that closes at 12? Everything closes between 10 and 12. So who's out after that? Junkies and bad guys.
Sure.
And so, they tried me. And...
Okay, so maybe some local people, some of the homeless or... Yeah.
So, there was one night when I was quitting smoking. I spent about 17 years quitting smoking. And this was one of those times where it didn't work out that well. And so I'm here at work, and I'm wearing a suit, Mr. Brooks Brothers, and I'm like, I gotta have a cigarette. And so I decided to pop around the corner to one of those little tienditas where you could buy one cigarette. Because if I buy an entire pack, I'll feel obligated to smoke them all, and that just completely defeats the purpose of quitting. But I have to have one. And so I go around the corner, and I'm wearing my suit, and a couple of street lights had gone out, and it looked especially dangerous, right? But luckily, I got my ASP tactical extendable baton in one pocket, and pepper spray in the other. And I don't mean this rinky-dink little thing on a keychain. I mean like pepper spray.
Like industrial strength.
Yeah.
Right?
And I see these two guys walking towards me, and they're all dressed up like they're straight out of Compton, right? And they're doing that gangsta shuffle like I'm bad, right? And as they're approaching me, and I'm thinking, oh, wow, I feel a little conspicuous in my suit. But I'm ready. If we have to do this again, I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to get my suit dirty like last time. But you know what? I'm going to try to be polite. And as we approach one another, and they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them, I reach in my pockets, and my hand closes around my baton, and I'm ready. And I just look at them, and I say, Buenas noches. And they look at me and say, Buenas noches, Don Alex. One, you know my name, and two, you're calling me Don Alex, like that title of respect. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that was the last time that I ever carried any weapons. I'm like, all right, this town is safe for me. I don't need...
So did you kind of just misjudge the situation? Is that what happened?
Entirely.
Yeah.
But just, I guess I have a bit of a reputation, I suppose, from all the, let's see, what's a colorful and friendly way to say this? People I've had to bonk on the head over the years. And so I got a bit of a reputation as a bonker of heads. And so people think, well,
He bonks
let's
heads.
not try that guy.
Not for me.
Right, and so, but even criminals called me Don Alex. That's all of my employees do, and a few other people around town. Don Alex, ¿cómo estás? Like Don Corleone or something. And I still feel a bit uncomfortable with it.
Oh, come on, Don Alex, relax.
I do enjoy it, but I do feel a little uncomfortable. But having these two die-hard criminals calling me that, I'm like, wow, I was quite chuffed.
Yeah. After that, you just said, okay, well, I'm done with that, right?
Yeah, I don't need to carry anything anymore.
Let's go back to a topic more related to the foreigners that we were talking about before, the foreigners living here. So before we mentioned that, you said 15 years ago, it was a little bit less, it was lower luxury than it is now, and now it's a bit higher luxury. And how about the population of foreigners? Has it really, really increased in the past 15 years? Do you think it's kind of stayed stable? How is that? I mean, I think the tourism is quite a bit higher now, right, than before?
Tourism has always been high since I've been here.
Okay.
I would have to say, if I had to guess, there are 50,000 Guatemalans living in this city, and between 3,000 and 4,000 foreigners. And most of them people like me who came here for 3 months and said, you know what? I like it here. And I don't know about now, because nowadays we've got a lot more luxuries than we did when I moved here. I did not have to walk uphill both ways in the snow barefoot. Don't get me wrong, but we've got a lot more nicer things. And when I first came here, it was, I left every modern convenience to be here, and for a while was living in what could best be described as meager accommodations, and was happier than I'd ever been. And I realized, oh, I think one of the reasons that I'm so happy is I'm living without a lot of things. I'm like, oh, look, here's another thing I can do without, and I'm happier without it. Nowadays, maybe I'm more of a prisoner of my phone like a lot of people, and I'm like, scroll, and forgetting to experience life. But there are so many things that you appreciate here because they're not as nice as the things that you completely took for granted back home.
Let's actually talk about the streets. I have my motorcycle here. I drove down from Minnesota. And the streets here are cobblestone. Do you have a vehicle here?
I do. We have a couple. And I am very, very happy that... All right, so they redo the streets all the time. Every year they're redoing the streets, and they do them just as badly as they did before. But this time, I think this mayor really wants to get reelected because the streets that he redid were nice. Like we're driving along, and then we get to the newly paved street. We're going, dun, 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 dun.
I've completely noticed that. When I drive on my bike, I'm like, this street is absolutely awful. I'm like I literally start like complaining to myself as I'm driving. And then there's other streets where I can just fly past.
And it's so nice. And one of the things that are great about having all of these horribly rough cobblestones is they remind people to drive slowly. Now,
that's true.
People, when they get to the smooth part, especially on Friday, Saturday night, they floor it and they go 1 block really, really fast. Like, look what I can do for 1 block. And then crash into a parked car. And for God's sake, did you really have to do that? But because if you drive at any respectable speed, you're going to destroy your shocks.
Sure.
So you drive slower and you're more respectful of pedestrians.
So for people that are thinking of coming down here, do you think it's suggestible to get a vehicle? I mean, if they just want to stick around maybe Antigua, it's a quite walkable city, right? That's what people say, oh, why do you drive so much? It's a walking city, right?
It is a walking city. You can cross this, like whenever I had to do errands, restaurant stuff, I got to go over here, I got to renew my permit, I got to go over there, I got to pay this tax, I got to go pick up more flour, and for God's sakes. And you get a lot of good, I wouldn't say cardio, but
It's almost like mandatory cardio because of just trying to avoid getting in vehicles, right?
And you're not going to get in your car to drive over there. It's only 6 blocks. Now, I did go back to Florida for something a couple years ago. I had to go get something done, and I'm in this plaza, and there were no restaurants. I wanted to get something to eat. Well, where's the closest restaurant? It's a block away. I'll walk. And I ended up walking for 45 minutes to the next block and got a sunburn on the way.
Oh, wow.
Damnedest thing. No, Antigua is entirely different. It's very pleasant, and we'll just pop over to the other side of the city in 5 minutes.
Right. Quite a high priority for people looking for a new city to live in is beautiful climate, wonderful weather, and this city kind of hits it right on the head, right?
Absolutely. They call this valley the land of eternal spring for good reason. Now, sometimes it'll get really, really cold, like 58 degrees.
It was like 59 this morning. Yeah. After the rainfall, then the next morning it's a little bit colder, like 2 degrees colder.
It's an excuse to wear a blazer.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes it gets really, really hot, like 74. When I used to live in Florida, it would get up like 110 degrees, no problem.
Yeah.
When I lived in Ireland, there were these 5 guys from a village, the next village over, Emmy Vale, that went to Florida to work in the Everglades, which is a massive swamp.
Right.
They went to work in Florida to, get some money. And they were working at sugarcane and stuff. And one day they all dropped dead from the heat.
Oh boy.
That's never gonna happen here.
Yeah. On my motorcycle, I can definitely feel the highs and lows a little bit more because, when you're in a car, you don't feel those things. But I feel super comfortable at this altitude, 1,500 something meters, right? Something like that.
5,500 feet above sea level here.
Right. So that's kind of the Goldilocks zone. I think it's kind of one of those absolutely fantastic places to maybe plant yourself if you're just looking for excellent climate. And
don't get me wrong. All right, so we live in the valley surrounded by this mountain range with 3 volcanoes, but my wife, she's got family over here, lives in the mountains, and we go there to visit sometimes. And even in the summertime, when the party runs a little late, like 7 o'clock, and we got to build a fire, and everyone's getting out dragging out the jackets and the blankets that they had in the truck, and we're sitting around shivering. It does get chilly, but not here in the valley.
Yeah, and the surrounding mountains up at 1,800, 2,000 meters, it's pretty cold up there. It goes to the 40s or whatever,
Yeah.
Overall quality of life is good. How about living here with your family? Do you have any children?
Not yet, but hopefully.
And do you think this is a great place for a family to live in? Is it like family oriented, or is it more of a kind of like, solo, maybe bachelor style city? What do you think it is for that?
Absolutely family oriented.
Yeah.
This is, I think, one of the best places. That's why I think so many young couples come here, or people come down here and, like me, meet somebody and get married and raise a family, because it is such a nice and wholesome place. And these little kids are running around in the park. I seen these little indigenous kids. They're like, hey, what do you want to do? Hey, let's go collect cans. They're running around, scampering barefoot, finding cans and bring them to their mom. And I see one little kid trying to fly a bag. He got a piece of string and he found a plastic bag lying on the ground, tied a string to it, and he's running around the park like with a kite, and like, yeah, freaking great little kids. And they come in here, a lot of these kids that are in the park every day trying to sell bracelets and stuff like that, and they come in here, there's a public restroom across the street, and it costs 5 quetzales to use it. Well, yeah, it's a public restroom, they gotta charge money, and 5 quetzales is nothing. It's less than $1. But if you're trying to make a living selling bracelets in a park, you probably don't have 5 quetzales to throw away. So I let them use the bathroom, and then we give them each a banana or something like that. And and talk to them and catch up. Say, how you been? Oh, good to see you. So, what you been doing lately? You going back to school yet? And they're just the nicest bunch of kids ever. And they can walk around at 10 o'clock at night without worrying. Now, I'm not recommending this. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's danger everywhere. But they can.
Yeah, so it's definitely a safe place for families, for children, for everyone, especially after, perhaps you said in the past it was a little bit rougher, but now it's quite chill.
It was a little bit rough the year that I got here. I
That
did.
was 15 years ago.
Yes, I did have to bonk several heads.
So overall, we're talking about a pretty cheap place to live. You said a couple thousand will help you live in a very comfortable lifestyle.
Very
You know, obviously maybe not going out to the most luxury place every single night, but
Every other night.
every other, perhaps, and having a place that's not the biggest mansion, but maybe the second biggest, whatever. So, are there any tips that you think will be valuable for someone that
Yes.
would want to move here?
Yes. I think this applies to everyone in the world today. This right here is a supercomputer that you carry around in your pocket that has access to almost all the knowledge in the world. There is no excuse not to know how to say what you're going to say to someone in Spanish. Like there's Google Translate, which is faulty, but
pretty good.
free and it's pretty good.
pretty good.
And you want to know how to say something, you type it into Google Translate and go, and ask somebody and be polite. Speaking English in a loud voice is not speaking Spanish.
So starting with the language tip, when you have a phone, a local phone, I'm using my phone to record this, but on your phone, you get that SIM card. What does it cost? Like $2, right? The SIM card?
I don't even remember.
So yeah, I
but
bought
no.
one recently, so it's a couple dollars. You pay for a phone plan. My phone plan costs, I think, $11 a month, and it's 10 gigabytes. It's ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
And you use that to look up any translations you might ever need. And yeah, sticking to the local language is important, right?
There is an amazing website called omniglot.com, and it's got the translations of very frequently used phrases into every language in the world, and that's how I can now greet. We have these people that come from all over the world to the restaurant, and when they're looking at the menu, I ask them like, "So where are you from?" And they'll say like, "Turkey." And I say, "Hoş geldiniz." And they go, "Teşekkürler." And they say, they look at me with a somewhat defiant look, and they go, "Poland." And I say, "Dzień dobry." And they get all happy, and they're like, "Oh my God." And then they come in and they're like, "Na zdrowie, smacznego." All of these are things that I learned on Omniglot, and they really come in handy.
This is a book or a website? What
It's
is
a
it?
website.
Website. Okay.
Yeah, a glot is a way of saying language.
Right.
And so,
Many languages.
Yeah, a polyglot speaks many languages, and omniglot is every language.
Okay.
It's a really great resource, and I highly recommend everybody in the world to use it and be considerate of other people, because I see tourists all the time speaking to the Guatemalans, and they're like, "Hi, how you doing? Listen, blah, 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 blah." And the person is trying to catch one or two words, and that's just, that's rude. And I would really appreciate it if I saw more people at least try.
I think it's maybe in your perspective, since you're surrounded by tourists, you see that a lot more
Yeah.
than me. I've been living in kind of areas that are less populated by those groups. And yeah, I mean, I guess specifically here, like all the hostels and the hotels and where the main tourists will come. Yeah, that will be something you'll see probably pretty much all day, every day, right?
Pretty much, yes. And it's not just English speakers. It's people from other countries that don't speak, where English is not the first language, but English has become the lingua franca of a lot of places. And so people would say, all right, well, we'll just speak in the common tongue of the civilized world, and which is an asinine thing to say, but I've actually heard somebody say it.
One other thing I wanted to ask, if there was another place in Guatemala where you would maybe want to live if you didn't live in Antigua, where do you think that would be?
Me personally,
Sure.
Cayala. But a lot of people are criticizing the place, saying that it has no soul. But that's where I would go.
I went to Cayala when I was living in the Guatemala metro, and it was really weird. It's like this huge modern, like not Guatemala in Guatemala.
Yes, it's like a Mediterranean revival architecture. Reminds me very much of Santorini in that everything is white or lapis lazuli blue. And I think it's absolutely gorgeous. A lot of people say that Xela or Quetzaltenango are the places to go. Panajachel or San Marcos, but those really aren't my scene.
Your scene is more Xela or
I've never been to
Cayala.
Xela.
You haven't been there?
I haven't been.
No
I've been
way.
there 15 years.
I went. My first place in Guatemala that I visited was Xela because I was driving over from Mexico, and I stopped in Xela for a week, and then drove over to Panajachel on the way here, and then came over to the metro and back here. So yeah, I've kind of jumped around in the short amount of time I've been here, 6 weeks. Xela definitely kind of came to mind, but yeah, I'm surprised you haven't been there. What is it too cold for you or what?
I just haven't had occasion to go. I've been so busy. I opened up this restaurant, and a year later opened up our first ice cream shop. We have 3, and we're about to open number 4 exotic ice cream shops with 148 flavors.
Whoa.
Do you like ice cream?
Not really.
Why not?
Ice cream isn't my thing because in my entire life I've always had sensitive teeth, and when I have any like thing that's really cold drink, ice cream, anything that's like with ice that's been in a freezer, I can't enjoy it. So it's kind of sad, but that's me.
They got a toothpaste for that.
Yeah.
Have you tried it?
Sensodyne, yeah. It doesn't work.
Never mind.
Your ice cream shops, is that within your restaurant and outside the restaurant?
So the restaurant is almost in the corner of Central Park, the northeastern corner of Central Park.
Right.
And like there's a white bank, and next door to it is a yogurt shop, and next door to that is Sobre Mesa. And right around the corner, halfway up the block, is Sobre Mesa, the exotic ice cream shop. We maintain 70 or so flavors at a time because any more than that is just way too much. Because people look at the menu and just...
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Never
148.
heard of this.
148, never going to happen. We've got an ice cream cart in San Cristobal, which is about 20 minutes outside of town.
By Misco, right?
Yes, in Misco on the way to the city. And we've got 2 places now in the capital, in Zone 14. And my wife and her sisters just opened a place in Zone 11 that's serving our ice creams too.
Great.
And other desserts.
So you have 3 ice cream shots in the Guatemalan metro area, the Guatemala City metro.
And tomorrow, the world.
Here in Antigua, you have the shop here, and then a stand.
The restaurant here and the ice cream shop around the corner.
And a stand you said?
Yeah, and a stand in San Cristobal. So the flavors we've got flavors like dark beer triple chocolate espresso brownie, jalapeno banana, which isn't especially spicy, a little bit. It's not like we just chopped up jalapenos and chopped up bananas and put them in ice cream. Like there was a process to this, and it's complicated. We got apple chipotle, which is spicy, a lot, and got blueberry lavender caramelized lime peel.
These sounds like some very unique flavors that you won't find anywhere else.
That's right. And hibiscus cherry with a pinch of black pepper. And we've got, so I'd come up with an ice cream and it will be very, very popular. And then I start thinking, what else can we do with these flavors? Like, all right, we started serving Negronis. And Negroni is a pretty trendy drink right now, and it's existed for over 100 years.
What is Negroni again?
It's 1 part gin, 1 part Campari, and 1 part sweet vermouth, which is, say, red vermouth. But we'll put, if you wish, a sphere of frozen coconut sorbet in it. That it's got no sweetener in it, just the natural sweetness of the coconut, which isn't too sweet. And as it melts, it gradually changes the flavor of the drink. Doesn't make it a sweet drink, but it takes a little of the edge off the bitterness. And at the end of it, you get this great coconut sludge to eat with a spoon. And a big selling point. And we got an Aperol spritz with a sphere of frozen passion fruit. And the newest one, which was inspired by one of our ice creams, is an old-fashioned whiskey cocktail, famous whiskey cocktail if you've never had it, with a sphere of frozen chai spice infused blackberry.
Wow, interesting. Interesting. Lots of interesting mixes.
Thank you. Yeah, so what I do is I cackle like a madman in my secret lab and come on. It's like mixing stuff together and having a great time.
So let's talk about being a business owner here. Yeah. Is it easy or difficult to manage these businesses? So you have this restaurant. Do you have another location of the restaurant, or is this the only one? And the ice cream shops, you have many, of course.
At this moment, this is the only restaurant. I've had many opportunities to open another one, but my older and wiser friends from the States who live here, who already made their fortunes, some of which in accounting, say, don't do it, man. Don't do it. The temptation is strong, but I lost a lot of clients, great clients that I had for years, that said, you know what? Our restaurant's doing very well. Let's open another one. They go broke in no time. I don't know how these other people do it that have 10, 15. I'll learn. I'll buy whatever book it is I have to read, and I'll learn, and there'll be more on that later.
Okay. But how about the ice cream side of the business that you're running there? That's kind of a chain of many different locations. Is that difficult to manage as it's spread out between multiple cities and locations, right?
It's a piece of cake.
Yeah. Piece of cream.
Piece of cream. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Okay.
I highly recommend, if you have business savvy, to invest in Guatemala and open your business here. No more ice cream shops, please. There's been a whole bunch. We've been selling exotic ice cream for 14 years, and by the grace of God, they've been very popular, and so all these other ice cream shops are popping up all over the place. And I'm not complaining, but this is a really great place to come and open a business and give back to another culture. All right.
Some variety to their life as well, right? Because, something different for the local people to experience.
It's not just that. I really love that I'm creating jobs to improve people's lives and lift entire families out of poverty, to eliminate the need for a lot of people, not all, to feel they have to migrate north to the United States. They don't have to pick up stakes and move to an entirely different country and culture. They can stay right here and work an honorable job, make a good living, and get a good education.
There you go. When we're talking about having a business here, do you think it was really easy to do because you have this local wife? Would it be difficult if you didn't have a local spouse?
It would have been a lot easier if I had a clue. Yeah, I was bereft of clue when I came here. My wife, she's a pretty smart cookie, right?
Yeah.
And so she knew an awful lot of things that I didn't, that I would have been completely lost, especially speaking Spanish. I speak Spanish now, but back then, no, I would have been lost at sea.
Sure.
She helped me an awful lot. But there are so many foreigners who have moved here and opened very successful businesses, and they bring the flavor of their country or the know-how that they got from somewhere else. Like, they're not like immigrants that go to the States and learn a trade somewhere else and then go to the States to practice it and deprive their home country of that. They're people that are coming from all over the world, and they have their specialized know-how, and they bring it to Guatemala and thus enrich the country even further.
Sure. Give jobs, give a new type of whatever their talent is, whether it be with ice cream, food, raise standards of living, and help people get more money in their families' pockets. Yeah, I can see that. But do you have so you mentioned that your wife really helped out because she knew a lot about business and she's smart. So a lot of these friends that are from the U.S., are they people that are both the man and the woman are foreigners? Have you talked to any people that had a lot of obstacles running businesses, or is it somewhat manageable to do it?
I wouldn't say there are too many obstacles, not any more than there are anywhere else.
Okay.
And I think on the whole it's easier. I think on the whole it's easier here, and I feel that this is the real land of opportunity.
Interesting. Well, I think that's a great time for us to just call it a night, and let me shake your hand. I really appreciate you giving us your time, your information, your story. It's a fantastic story, really interesting thing that I'm really excited to start doing on my channel, and I want to say thanks. And if you want to say anything to any my audience here, go ahead.
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. Thank you very much for listening, and
come to Antigua.
Hope to see you here.
Come to, what's the name of your restaurant?
Sobremesa.
Come to Sobremesa. That's.
Can I quickly tell you? It means dessert in Portuguese. In Spanish, it means the time you spend at the table after you finished eating, instead of just buggering off to watch TV.
Okay.
The importance of spending time with family and friends after a big meal.
Oh, that's a meaningful name. I really like that. Absolutely. Right. Come to Sobremesa and come spend time with the family here. All right. Nux.